That's all Adam has to do is just lift his finger. If he does that, he'll connect with God. But he can't be bothered. He's too busy like reclining and chilling. And we can look at that and say, dude, Adam, come on, man. Just lift your finger. How hard is it? And so I'll ask you the things in your life. Come on, just lift your finger. How hard is it? A little bit of effort, man. With just a little bit of ambition, you'd be shocked with what you can accomplish if you would just lift your finger a little bit. Art can create these gorgeous lies that, man, you just hope become true. If anybody in here has ever sung along to a love song before, but you've never quite been in love before, but you sing along to that song like you mean it, you know? Like that somehow that song's about me. Even though it was written 30 years before I was born, somehow that song's about me, and you're nodding because you're in your feelings, not so much because you've been in love, but because of a melancholy because you wish you had been in love so far. Just be patient. I promise you someday you'll feel that. And that love song that you sang when you were 18, that was a lie back then, it's going to be absolutely true when you're 38 or 28, maybe 19. The beautiful thing about art is that it just is beautiful. It doesn't come to you promising to do anything except to fill that specific moment of your life during which you're experiencing it with the most exquisite pleasures possible. To fill your soul, to fill your heart in such a way that you, if it's done right, you can't even explain it. It's going to be a sporadic overflow or a spontaneous overflow of just absolutely powerful feelings that you can't describe, except just to go, and someone asks you, what do you think of it? It's good. It's not just good, it's great. It's mind-boggling, it's breathtaking, it's speech-taking. All of the words, if you're great with words, if you study, if you read, if you're a poet, all of the words that you've spent your whole life mastering will fail you in the face of great art. You won't be able to explain it. Later on, you will be able to, when you finally have calmed down in your spirit. But art promises nothing except for that. I'm going to ask you, what is success in life? To burn always with a hard gem-like flame, to maintain an ecstasy and a passion for experience in life. To maintain that is success in life. And that's the thing that art promises and nothing else. I cheated a little bit because I asked you an impossible question. What is it about that painting that strikes us? There are some people who can describe it, but to be able to do that takes a long time. It takes a lot of effort to learn how to describe what it is about a piece of art that attracts us to it. If you ask most people, we'll say things like, the colors are pretty. What do you mean by pretty? Oh, you know what I mean, it's hard to describe. That's what it is. It's very difficult to describe, but there is something about that does strike us. For example, the Mona Lisa. What is it about that painting that hits people? I don't know about, well, that's not true. I know what a lot of people describe as, but to me, it's something completely different. What's in the background of the Mona Lisa? Does anybody know? Kind of, yeah. It's just a wasteland. It's just this ugly, desolate wasteland. That's a strange thing to put in the back of a painting of a person. And we do seem to know who the person was. I mean, the painting's named after La Gioconda. We kind of know who the person was. But there's something about, it's, for a lot of people, for myself included, it's in the smile. There's a little smile there that, what does it mean? I don't know. Does the person know something I don't know? Are they smiling because they see you looking at them? Are they smiling because they think it's silly that you're looking at them? I don't know. And it's the same kind of a smile that sometimes you'll see on people. It's like if I were to ask you about a person's expression, if a person's looking at you, have you ever caught someone looking at you, but you don't know how to understand the meaning behind the way they were looking at you? They're looking at me in a positive way, a negative way, a silly way. Were they actually even looking at me, or were they looking past me? And that's one of the things that La Gioconda, the Mona Lisa, brings out of us. It's that weird kind of smile, like what does it mean? And that's the thing about all really good art. What does it mean? Because you're absolutely right, that there's a story behind every piece of art. This is true. but it sounds a little bit cliche, but absolutely true, that the best story that's told about the art is within ourselves. What does that piece of art mean to you? Because every piece of art has two parts of it. There's the artist who creates it, paints it, whatever, and then there's the viewer. So there's the artist's intention, obviously. What did they mean to convey to us? But then there's also what we perceive in it. And that's true about like a sentence even. If I say something to you, yes, there's a sentence, there's the words I use, there's the tone I used when I said it, it's the meaning I intended to convey, and then it stops. Because then you pick up what I just said, it goes into your ears, and now it's how do you process what I said? How do you process the tone? How do you process the meaning of it? And this is one of the things that makes conversations so difficult. This is what makes misunderstandings happen. That we go back and forth between what I said versus what I meant to say. And even if I meant to say something, I was clear about it, do you have the best intentions for what I said? So you intend so you hear it the way that I intended, or do you take it in the worst possible way? With art, we don't have that two-way conversation necessarily. We just have the one thing, which is the impression on the wall and how it is that we're perceiving it. And the more that you study it, it's one of those things that the more you study it, the more you see that there is to study. And this is why a really good painting, if you're walking past it, it can capture your imagination and capture your attention. It can arrest your mind for a long, long time. You guys ever seen the Sistine Chapel? You know what I mean? What that is? It's in the Vatican. It's the chapel where they elect the new popes. It's an old chapel. But the ceilings and the walls are painted by some of the greatest artists who ever lived. And it's incredible that they were all living in the same area around the same time. There's one of the most famous, if not the most famous part of it, is the painting, the creation of Adam. If you've ever seen this before, I hate this painting, man. If I showed it to you, you'd recognize it. It's that one where it's a painting of God who's like reaching out like this. And he's surrounded by angels, and then Adam is there. And Adam's like leaning backwards. He's not even like leaning towards him. He's leaning back, and his finger's like this. It isn't even like this. He's like this. And he's got this look on his face like, come on, God, reach me. And God's like stretched out. And the angels are even looking at God and at Adam like, what is this thing that's been created? Such that God is reaching out to him or to it, and it is just reclining like somehow it doesn't have to even try a little bit. The whole thing is that the distance between God's finger and Adam's finger is like this. It's tiny when you see it in paintings. And all Adam has to do to reach God is this. Literally lift a finger. You heard the expression before? Like, you won't even lift a finger to do X, Y, and Z. That's all Adam has to do is just lift his finger. If he does that, he'll connect with God. But he can't be bothered. He's too busy like reclining and chilling. And we can look at that and say, dude, Adam, come on, man. Just lift your finger. How hard is it? And so I'll ask you the things in your life. Come on. Just lift your finger. How hard is it? A little bit of effort, man. With just a little bit of ambition, you'd be shocked with what you can accomplish if you would just lift your finger a little bit. And I hate the painting because when you look at it in a picture, the gap between God and man is like that. And so I went to the Vatican once. I'll tell you the full story in third quarter. But I got there really early, man. And you know that if any of you guys ever travel, one thing you'll discover about Americans is that we're the only ones who show up on time to anything. Everywhere in the world, it's like, 8 a.m. And 8 a.m. always means 8-ish, 8:15, 8:20 or so. And so I go to the Vatican because I think I went to they open like at 8 or something like that. Don't quote me on the time. But the first time I went there, I got there at like 5 in the morning, like 3 hours early. And I was standing out there in the dark, just freezing my ass off, just because I wanted to be the first person in there. And so I'm standing there freezing for hours, man. About like 7:50, the next person shows up. And I'm like, this is stupid. You're second in line. And then the line piles up behind that one person. People don't even start lining up until like 8 o'clock when they open. So I prepaid, they opened the gates, and I went running through the Vatican. Running. And I thought it was fantastic. I'm like cutting, because they have like signs that tell you where you can go. And I ran past one of those guys who looks like they work at Hot Dog on a Stick. You know, those really tall guys with the pikes, the Swiss Guard. Those are the guys who guard the Pope. Have you seen them before? And I run right past him. The guy says to me, "Slow down," which I love that. He said it in English. We're in Italy. We're in the Vatican. He says it in English. Why does he say it to me in English? Because only an American would be running through the Vatican like that at 8 a.m. And so I ran into the Sistine Chapel. There was a guard at the door, and there's a guard at the back door. It's not much bigger than the gymnasium that we have here. It's actually probably smaller than that. I run in, and I find the creation of Adam, and I run in, and I look up, and I see it. And I'm like, because I'm thinking like, it's like 30 feet up. The gap between God and man at that point, it'll be so high up, it'll look like they're connecting, right? No. That goddamn gap is still like that. Even when you're staring up at this thing, I stare at this thing for 45 minutes. You know, like if you stare at something long enough, you can almost do like a mind trick where you can like make things move, you know? I'm trying to do this, and I'm like, touch fingers. And I was the only person in the Sistine Chapel at that moment, except for the guard at the front, the guard at the back. I was in there by myself, and I'm staring out going, come on, touch fingers. And I'm not exaggerating to you, I'm not lying to you. I stared at that thing for 45 minutes like this, waiting for those fingers to, when I finally came back to reality, I was surrounded shoulder to shoulder with people who had like filled in the place. I just wanted that one stupid little gap to get filled up with my mind. This is one of those things that art does to you. Art can create these gorgeous lies that, man, you just hope become true. If anybody in here has ever sung along to a love song before, but you've never quite been in love before, but you sing along to that song like you mean it, you know? Like somehow that song's about me. Even though it was written 30 years before I was born, somehow that song's about me, and you're nodding because you're in your feelings, not so much because you've been in love, but because of a melancholy, because you wish you had been in love so far. Just be patient. I promise you someday you'll feel that. And that love song that you sang when you were 18 that was a lie back then, it's going to be absolutely true when you're 38 or 28. Maybe 19. Don't know. We have this way of, through art, experiencing things through the eyes of the artist that we've never experienced ourselves. Sometimes it almost creates a lie. Like Oscar Wilde has this great little, like, I guess, pamphlet book or whatever you call it. It's very short, called The Decay of Lying, and he complains in this that the fog, that the London fog, London is famous for its fog. This person is saying that he hates the artists because once the artists started painting the fog and writing about the fog, all of a sudden the fog showed up. And the fog is only there because the artists created it. Did the artists create the fog? No. But the artists noticed the fog. And then they presented it in art. Then the rest of us were like, yeah, there is a lot of fog. I never noticed it until the artists created it. It was a lie. It's like it wasn't real to us until we saw artists who were able to explain it. This is why, like through music. I talk about, if any of you guys listen to old hip hop, like NWA. Anybody heard NWA? Yeah, NWA. Were they gangsters? No. Only one of them was. The rest of them were all studio gangsters. The thing is that they weren't claiming at the time to be gangsters. They grew up around it. And so what they were doing on their records was reporting on what they had seen. Tupac, studio gangster, never even saw the hood. But he wrote about it in such a way that it sounded like he had, because he was expressing the attitudes and the problems of the hood. Biggie kind of grew up around it. But man, if you ever listened to Nipsey Hussle, Nipsey was an eyewitness. I describe it as Tupac and Biggie, they were reporters. Nipsey Hussle is an eyewitness. And so, I went to Nipsey's grave a few weeks ago. He's buried up in LA, but he doesn't have a headstone. It's just a piece of grass because they don't want people going there. It's pretty dope, you know. Many of you guys, Paul Walker fans? Yeah, Paul Walker. You guys ever noticed this before? The word race car? If you spell it forward, it spells race car. And then if you spell it backwards, it's race car. You know what race car is sideways? Paul Walker.
No, that's crazy. I can't love it.
I appreciate that. Anyway, Nipsey is buried near Paul Walker. Some of you will be walking home and say, going, that was mean. It'll occur to you. But yeah, Nipsey is an eyewitness to it. And you can listen to it and then you can experience it in a way that maybe right now it won't make sense to you, but later on in your life it will make sense to you. Art does this, man. It tells beautiful lies, things like, I love you, that eventually they can come true. But that's the thing. You have to experience life. In order for art to mean a lot to you, art can inspire you, hopefully, to go and experience life. But to actually understand it, to have it part of what you are, and you have to experience life, man. And that's one of the beautiful things about art, man, because this lifetime for any of you, if you're even just like a little bit curious about life, this life is not long enough to do all of the things that you want to do. The problem in life is not that there's nothing to do, it's that there's too much to do. And art is one of those things that can help you to experience more of it. Because the beautiful thing about art is that it's just beautiful. You look at a painting, what does it do? Nothing. It doesn't change a tire. It doesn't do your taxes. All it does is it's just beautiful. It doesn't do anything. Some people, by the way, are like this. You know? I used to know somebody who was so beautiful that all I could ever do was just sigh. I told her, I said, just looking at you, you just make me sigh by looking at you. Because what else was, there was nothing else there except for just, she was like art. I've known people like this before. And so, the beautiful thing about art is that it just is beautiful. It doesn't come to you promising to do anything except to fill that specific moment of your life during which you're experiencing it with the most exquisite pleasures possible. To fill your soul, to fill your heart in such a way that you, if it's done right, you can't even explain it. It's going to be a sporadic overflow or a spontaneous overflow of just absolutely powerful feelings that you can't describe, except just to go, and someone asks you, what do you think of it? It's good. It's not just good, it's great, it's mind-boggling, it's breathtaking, it's speech-taking. All of the words, if you're great with words, if you study, if you read, if you're a poet, all of the words that you've spent your whole life mastering will fail you in the face of great art. You won't be able to explain it. Later on, you will be able to, when you finally have calmed down in your spirit. But art promises nothing except for that, to give you the most, to fill up that one moment, for that one moment's sake, and for the sake of itself, for the sake of beauty only. And it promises that possibility of some kind of a success in life. I'm going to ask you, what is success in life? It's what art promises. To burn always with a hard gem-like flame, to maintain an ecstasy and a passion for experience in life, to maintain that. That is success in life. And that's the thing that art promises and nothing else. You have to change your own tires. You have to do your own taxes. But art will at least give you that for its own sake and for nothing else. So, questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Yeah. Happy Tuesday.